Okay. So this is a response to a question that my wife had asked me, and I wanted to go over this a little bit because I don't think I understand the question right, or maybe I do understand the question right, but I'm not exactly sure how to answer this. But I'm going to kind of do my best to, I guess, give my opinion because I was asked for it. So the question went. It started off with explaining that if silver goes up, it could be in the paper market, it could be an artificial bubble. What would be a sustainable price on the more long term? So it's like, okay, well, not just the spike, but 2 to 3 years or 3 or 4 years out, what would the price of silver be and everything? So and to answer this, I don't really have any speculative powers or anything. I can say this though, that it's going to depend on just how much people kind of participate in this. So for anybody that's been following, I mean, it's all over the news, the GameStop hilarity of collapsing the hedge funds and having fun with, doing to Wall Street what Wall Street's been doing to Main Street for decades and decades. The silver squeeze, that is a massively good idea that's time has come. And I'm going to try and explain this, I guess, the best way that I could is as I understand it. Again, I'm not an expert, and for the record, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't give out advice or anything. I'm just a businessman. But I do understand how this stuff works, and I understand how inflation works, and I understand the way a lot of the markets function as it pertains to silver. Again, there are experts on silver. I am not him, but I can say that there are some positives to this. Now, as far as to answer the question, sustainable value like 3 and 4 years out, it really is going to depend on how many people actually participate in this. If the Reddit that Reddit group, I can't remember what the Wall Street Bets, if they actually do get some 10 million people to go out and buy $500 worth of physical silver. So not just the ETFs, but not just the paper silver or just the futures contracts. But if they actually go and buy physical silver, that will cause a short squeeze. And you're talking like something like, what would that be, $5 billion worth of silver. That's going to be felt, and especially if you're taking it out of the market. So the way I would kind of explain it to maybe people that are novices. So I'm trying to stay kind of generic, but it would be to explain that when you take money, take your wealth out of the system, which is what you're doing. If you're buying physical, you're taking your wealth out of the system. When you take it out of the system, they can't leverage it anymore. They can't. Because it's a physical metal, so you have to go out and pull it out of the ground. So to explain it that way, when you're pulling it out physically and you go bury it in your backyard or put it in your safe or just under your mattress or something like that, you're actually kind of going after you're going for the throat when you do something like that. So there's kind of no telling what silver would go to. I know that it's very shorted. It's an extremely shorted metal, and it's largely probably my speculation. Again, if I were just to speculate why it's so shorted, it would be because a lot of the technology required to continue, making cheap electronics and such. A lot of that stuff requires silver, and when silver price goes up, it makes those products more expensive. So anybody who's in the electronics industry, they don't want silver price to go up. And silver is in just about everything. It's a massive commercial metal. I mean, so it's not just there for jewelry and have monetary properties. It does have monetary properties, but it has more commercial properties, in my opinion, than monetary properties. I think that gold actually is a better monetary metal. But in terms of what the price would be, I suppose it would depend on what the inflation level is going to be. So if they try to, they've kind of got two choices here. If they go and they say, okay, all this metal's leaving, so we can try and settle in cash, and we can just pay these absurd premiums, 20, 30, 40, 50, 200, 500% premiums for people to settle in cash as opposed to demand physical. And if people take the dollars, if they take the worthless paper fiat garbage dollars, if they keep taking those, then they're going to keep winning, and after a fashion, and they'll just keep inflating the currency away. Now, the people that actually hurts are the people that are on the bottom end. So all of us that are, many people are on the bottom of the, to use a Jordan Petersonism, the bottom of the dominance hierarchy, but we don't know it. A lot of us don't know that we are actually kind of on the bottom. It kind of reminds me of that Dennis from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, who imagines himself this larger than life character, but it's kind of a legend in his own mind. I think a lot of us are in kind of that category where we don't really realize just how far we're down. A lot of us don't have as far to fall, or at least not as far as we think. And what happens is if you keep taking the dollars, then you're just continuing to perpetuate that system, because they can hypothecate more and more money progressively based on the amount of wealth that they show on the balance sheet. Now, this is hard to explain, I guess, if you're not really super familiar with this. But when they print money, the government issues a bond, and then they take the bond over to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve then writes a check. I mean, for lack of a better term, it's all digital now, but they take that and then they put that currency into the markets, and it creates these massive distortions. And this is kind of old news. I mean, like Ron Paul and a bunch of other people have talked about this. So some of this stuff that I'm saying is kind of basic, but when things like that happen, it creates these huge distortions. Now, by taking if you're buying physical silver and you take it out of the market, you kind of force their hands. So, is this an unslayable dragon? No. But it's not going to be one of these things where, like GameStop, where you collapse a hedge fund over like a 2-week period. This is kind of there's a lot more at stake. If the silver squeeze does actually happen, I mean, if people do decide that's it, I'm going to take possession of physical metal and I'm going to take it home with me. And I'm going to just keep it for however the hell long I need to keep it for, until I get the desired result, which is not necessarily an increased dollar amount of the silver itself, because the dollar relativity doesn't matter. It matters what you can actually purchase with it, and there's no real way to know, because prices technically come down; they don't go up. It takes huge amounts of effort to get prices to go up. If you understand, I mean. The natural tendency of price over time is to drop. So who knows? I mean, a newspaper used to cost 25 cents, for example. So like in 1960, you could give somebody a 25 cents or a quarter and everything. That's 90% silver in 1960 quarter, and that same quarter today is like what, $2.50 or something like that. Whatever, $2.50, $3 or something like that. So. It's the same thing with a dime. I mean, a 20-cent gallon of gas, well, it's roughly translated. So this is my sort of circuitous way of explaining that. Do I think that there's any sustainable number like $50 or $60 or something like that? I think it really is going to greatly depend on how many people actually put on the squeeze. If Americans get it through their head that that dollar hegemony, paper dollar hegemony, or digital dollar hegemony is a bad thing, and it's not doing any good. It's actually just making things much worse, and has for well over 100 years. I mean, they've been shorting all these metals for a long time. I mean, it wouldn't take much, and they would take it very seriously. And again, the first step, and I'll touch on this briefly. The first step is going to be that they'll do is call everybody names. They'll say, "Oh, you're a terrorist. You're taking your money out of the system, etc. You're just a whiny crybaby. You live at home with your mother. Yada yada yada. All that crap." They're going to say stuff like that about everybody who tries to take their money out. And so the first step is propaganda. That's phase one. Will be propaganda. Phase two will be make it illegal. And if you don't think that they will, I mean, 1933, they did make it illegal. That would not be a new thing. It's like, oh my God, that would be unprecedented. No. It's been done before. It was done in 1933. FDR did it. He made it illegal to own gold. He said, oh, you have to take all of your gold and you've got to take it into the Fed and you've got to give it to them and everything, and they're going to give you these paper notes, and then you're going to go and spend those in the economy and everything, and everybody's going to be happy. And well, yeah, I mean, it made the government happy, I suppose. It made the creditors for the government happy, but it certainly didn't work for the American people. All it did was just blatantly devalue their spending power, which finally came to a head, if I have memory serves, 1971, when they just kind of took the dollar completely off of gold altogether and just said screw it. And again, so where does silver come into this? Well, silver still has monetary properties, and now it's been told to me that a $5 or $10 move in gold will swallow the entire silver market. Now, I'm not sure if that's 100% totally accurate. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but I've been told this by a reputable source. But yeah, so like going after like the gold markets probably is going to be probably a bit too big of a dragon for everybody to go and slay right now. But they could certainly go after the silver market, and it's simple. The average person could just go and pick up some silver. I would recommend try and find reputable dealers, find guys who do sell either silver bullion or ingots or coins or something like that. If you can find American Eagles or something like that, they should trade for about or they should sell for somewhere about if you took your fiat dollars, you could probably get them for about $34-$35 as of the time of this recording. Maybe a little less depending on the premium that you're paying, and the prices that are reflected. Again, this is for those of you who don't know. When you see the futures price of like silver at 29 or 26.90 or something, that's the futures price. It's it's more of a theoretical price almost. The price you would actually pay if you went to a store and bought silver, and you're going to have a premium on that, and it's because it costs money to have it transported, smelted, turned into coins, all that kind of. There's costs and all that, and those costs are built up into the price. So when you get it, you take it and you take it home and everything. So but that's the two things that'll first happen and stuff. And then third, which is again, first is propaganda, second's going to be make it illegal, and the third eventually is going to be like, okay, well, hey, if people still, if you're persisting with this, if you're going to keep going after us, because by doing that, and this is something that needs to be understood as well, you're effectively declaring asymmetric warfare against their economy. Now, it's not a real economy. It's a fake economy. It's a false dominance hierarchy. It's full of the people who are effectively not able to function in the real world, in my opinion. They can't really run businesses. They don't understand how they know how to make a buck, not how to run a business. And there's two different ways to look at that. I mean, in other words, it's like the difference between speculation versus investing. Investing, if you're actually investing, you genuinely care that the person, or that the business that you're investing in is going to be a good, solid business, and they're going to have not just good fundamentals, on the broad markets or anything, but they're actually going to have a good product, and that people are going to want to continue to do business with that company, no matter how big it is, no matter whether it's a small company or a big company, they're going to want to continue to do business with them, versus speculation, which is just make a quick buck. So, and which is, that's why I just saw the numbers. Somebody the other day, I just saw a video where the speaker was saying, what's the average time that a stock is actually held for during the time that it's purchased, from when it's purchased to when it's sold. What's the average time length and there was all different kinds of answers and everything. And the more I thought about it, before I'd answered the question, I thought, well, probably like 30 seconds and such. I mean, it's got to be nothing because of all the high frequency trading. And I was wrong. It was actually 40 seconds. It was like, that's how much speculation is in the markets. And it's because there's too many dollars chasing too few profit opportunities. And there's lots of profit opportunities. There's lots of investment vehicles that are out there. You got to know what to look for, and you got to know how to look for them, and you got to be, you have to know what questions to ask. And most people have been so beaten down education-wise. They don't know any of this stuff. I mean, like, nobody teaches any of this stuff. Nobody teaches why it's so important that your money maintains value, or even just theoretically what money itself is, why it even exists. And it isn't just so that you can go to the mall and go shopping. It exists as a storehouse of value from your labor. There's a movie called In Time with Justin Timberlake, which is a kind of a low budget, kind of a high concept movie where they've got like a little electronic things in their arms, and it tells them how much time they have left, and you're spending your time, and when you run out of time, you just die. And like that's a fascinating way to actually tell quite a bit of truth about how the markets, how markets really work, if you understand that when you're working to produce something to be productive, the point of a job isn't to have a job. The point of a job is to be productive. And when it doesn't make any difference if you're working for somebody else. Most people have jobs they hate. They just do them to make. They want the end result, which is the money, and they don't even really want the money. They just want whatever that will do for them. And most people do things they hate, and they don't make enough money, and it's after a while it becomes really disheartening. And that's happening because of all of the artificial selling that's been going on. All these, so again, for lack of a better explanation, and I'm trying to condense a lifetime of knowledge here into, I hope, like maybe a 20-minute video or something like that. But I've been studying this stuff for decades, and so I'm trying to condense this as much as I can, and I'm leaving a ton of stuff out. But the gist of it is that if you're looking for a top end valuation, you're really going to have to ask yourself, okay, well, what could I purchase with my silver coin? So if I have a $1 silver, like a silver dollar, right, an actual silver dollar, not the silver dollars that were made after like 1965, if I'm not mistaken, but the actual silver dollars, like the Morgan dollars, or even a gold American or a silver American Eagle coins that they still make today. Those have a face value of $1, and those, in theory, should be, out west, you used to be able to buy land for $2 an acre. Well, maybe it should be $2 an acre again, but it's going to be $2 real dollars per acre, not 2 fake dollars. So do I think that silver could be $50, $60, 70, $80? I think that silver probably today should be 500. And that's just today, even with the paper markets being what they are, it should be that high, but it's not. And I think that it's because of just the amount of manipulation that's taken place. I think has really created a distortion, and it's also created sort of and also in people's mind there's sort of a wrong index. They're indexing it always to $1. And that actually has to change. You've got to not think about it in terms of dollars. That the U.S. dollar is so manipulated that it's like, what was it? Ben Bernanke, I think, was asked by Ron Paul. It's like some years ago, back when Bernanke was still Fed head. Like, what is $1? And the answer he gave, that Bernanke gave was, well, $1 is what $1 will buy. Like, well, okay, that's a safe answer, but hardly a good answer. It's a safe answer for him, and so, and it's just because people still have faith in the dollar. Now, as people continue to lose faith in the U.S. dollar, the paper dollar, or the digital dollar, how much could silver be? It could be $50,000 an ounce. It could be $500,000 an ounce. It could be whatever. It could be $1 million an ounce. Who knows? It's really going to depend ultimately on how many people decide to participate, and how willing they are to play hardball. Because look, when the rubber meets the road, if millions of people decide to actually start pulling silver out of the market, and they start buying it, and when I say buy it, it's just a currency transaction. You're just taking your fiat dollars, you're exchanging them to the metal companies, and you're taking metals and you're taking them home with you. Now, eventually they will stop selling it, just so you know. I mean, now that will happen. Eventually they'll run out. Especially if everybody's demanding physical. A futures contract is 5,000 ounces, which is, I think, 5 1,000-ounce blocks. They're like a brick of silver. And then they take that and they make those into coins. And if everybody's demanding physical, eventually they will run out. And how much silver is there in the world? Well, the answer is nobody really knows. But I'm very reasonably certain that the amount of paper silver is probably considerably more than that 140% float with GameStop. I would, if I were to hazard a guess, this is just my complete speculation, so don't take this as gospel. I would say that the amount of dollars that are used or that are short on gold and silver combined is probably like $500 trillion. It wouldn't, and I said trillion with a T. I mean, it would be insane what it would be, just how short they've been and how manipulated those markets have been for so many, over 100 years now. So, so just kind of keep that in mind. I mean, if everybody decides that hey, they're tired of the system, they're tired of this idea of these guys make all this money, and there's creating this massive wealth inequality. And again, it's the wrong type of wealth inequality. It's not that they're working harder and producing better products that are benefiting mankind, and so therefore they get more money. That's a reasonable wealth inequality. That's an understandable wealth inequality because they're actually doing more than somebody else is doing. It's a manipulated wealth inequality in that, like, they're not actually doing that. They're just simply changing. They're saying, okay, hey, look, here's our game, and we all saw what just happened with GameStop. As soon as somebody decided to play their game, well, all of a sudden they cry foul and say, oh, hold on, you can't do that. It's okay when we do it, but it's not okay when you do it. And yeah, that's the problem right there. That's where the issue comes in. So my long answer to this is that, what do I think silver can sit at, and what's a sustainable number for 3 and 4 and 5 years down the road? It could be anything. It really depends on how many people play the game. I would strongly encourage anybody that, hey, if you got like an IRA or 401k or something like that, and you want to just move your money into silver mining stocks or gold mining stocks or just mining stocks in general, okay, it's probably a good idea because the money will be taxed. But if you're really seriously looking to put a real squeeze, I would say buy the actual physical metal, and learn how to test it. That way you don't get taken advantage of by somebody unscrupulous. And by the way, expect that to happen too. I mean, if enough people start buying silver and there creates a bit of a frenzy, if that actually happens, you will see counterfeit silver everywhere, and it'll probably come out of the East, out of the country that loves to manipulate things and sell us cheap garbage goods. But expect it. And so learn how to test your silver, which just all that takes is a neodymium magnet or a rare earth magnet that you put on the, you put your coin, let me see, you put like your coin like this, and then just tilt it like this about 45 degrees, and the coin will slide, and it'll kind of hang for a second, and then go like that. It won't just slide off. If it just slides off, that means that it's aluminum or something like that. And if it sticks to it like really hard and won't move, then it's steel. So, or some variant of steel, some type of ferrous metal. So, so just learn how to learn that stuff. It's important. If anybody has a question or something like that, I'll take a piece of silver and I'll show you how that works. But so I hope that's a reasonable answer. It's long-winded, but that's. I was trying to answer that for Andy earlier when she had asked me for Corey, and I said, well, there's this kind of a lot to unpack with that question. It's a great question. but there's a lot going on with it. So I hope that somewhat helped. The short answer is it really depends on how many people are going to participate. That's really what it's going to come down to, and how many people will be scared off, because there will be a lot of people that'll be scared off, especially once the propaganda starts, and then oh, we're going to make it illegal, or we're going to send people to your house. Look, they don't have the resource. By the way, just for the record, they don't have the resources for any of this stuff. They don't have the resources for any of that. They don't have the manpower to go around. And they can take a few people out and everything, but they can't really go after everybody. It's not possible. And especially if you're just taking silver out of the market or gold out of the market, or both, and then you're just burying it someplace. They don't have the resources to go find all that. So you're pulling that out and everything. You're causing a massive squeeze, and it's going to depend on how many people actually push that squeeze, and buy it and hold it for a long time, because it won't be a weekend. It'll take probably 2 to 3 years to really. And again, that's with millions of people participating. It just depends on how many angry, upset, broke, disenfranchised people there are in the U.S., which, if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say roughly half of the population fits into that category. So, if 180 odd million people decide, okay, that's it, I'm going to go buy $500 worth of silver, yeah, that's game over. Who knows what the price would go to, but I think it would surprise all of us just how high it would go in terms of relative to the dollar index. For more information on like how metals work and how currency, coins, or even just monetary theory in general, I'd recommend a movie called American Dream Film. You just type that in, American Dream Film, and it's a little cartoon. It's like a half hour long. It's pretty cool. There's also another a little bit more abstract documentary called Money as Debt, or Money is Debt, or Money as Debt, one of the two. I don't necessarily agree completely theoretically on the conclusion of how to fix some of it within their film, but the pointing out of the problem is very accurate. That like these are the issues that are being caused by just printing money and just and manipulating the markets and everything, and going from a hard currency to a paper currency, and then just letting it sort of be a floating fiat currency. It's also kind of why I've asked, and nobody's ever really answered it, whenever they talk about income tax, like, why is there income tax if there's a floating fiat currency and you can print all the money you want? Why is there an income tax? Well, it exists to punish your enemies and reward your friends. That's the only reason it exists. There's no real actual reason for it to exist, at least not any intelligible reason. It doesn't do anything for you. It's just they got to pay back the bondholders. Yeah, that's just a guarantee to tax you to pay you back. It's just insane. So I hope that answers the question. I hope that also answers some maybe some other questions that maybe people have had about, like, how sort of the mechanics of how stuff like that works. Again, there's a lot more there. I'm leaving a ton of stuff out. If you have questions, you can ask Andy or something like that, and I'll if you have questions for me, ask Andy, and I'll do the best I can. But there are guys out there that are far more up to speed on this stuff than I am. But there, in terms of price, I would say that $50 I think would be very low. If there really is in fact a squeeze, and people decide to squeeze hard, $50 may be what it is on Tuesday, and then goes from there, and it just keeps going up, and causing a lot of wonderful problems. So anyway, that's all. Have a great night.